In this video I'm going to show you how to install and adjust cabinet hinges just like this. Welcome to JBTV. Hey, what's up guys, it's your man JB and welcome to yet another video. Now I've just taken myself down to Screwfix and I've just bought a packet of these, and you should be quite familiar with these if you've clicked on this video on how to fit, install and adjust cabinet hinges. That's exactly what these are. And just for you, I'm going to put together this comprehensive video on the easiest and best way to fit these. So let's open these up and take a quick look. Now these are quite cheap, these ones. These are probably the cheapest ones I could find, and the reason I went for these cheapest ones is really because you can get some quite fancy ones now which you just turn a screw and it moves it up and down and backwards and forwards and all sorts. So this is about the most basic one I could get, which will help me to help you even more so. Now the thing I like about these hinges nowadays, and I did try and get some of these without this feature, is that it has this little button on the end here, and you can basically take the door hinge section away from the bracket that goes in your cupboard, and this makes it a whole lot easier to actually hang or actually take the doors off if you want to take them off quite quickly. What I used to have to do is either undo these screws and take the door off, or you take these screws out and take the whole hinge off. So this is really great. So that goes inside the cupboard, this goes on the door, and then basically that just clips back in there like that. Absolutely brilliant. So apart from that feature, we've got a pretty basic hinge. Now you will notice that this is not a soft closer. The hinges I bought just recently for a project that I did not too long ago, this had a slow closer mechanism, which means it will just go in nice and slowly. So you can just tap the door and the door will slowly close. So even though that does go with a bit of a bang, it doesn't necessarily mean that your cupboard door is going to slam. So anyway, we'll see what it comes out like when we finally fit these. Now the only issue is I haven't actually got a cupboard to use. I didn't really want to use the kitchen cupboard. I'll use that as an example, but I actually wanted to start from scratch. So what I'm going to have to do right now is mock up a cupboard and door. Here we go. Right then, I've got my mock cupboard made, and that's really sturdy because I've put these angled or right angled blocks in the corners, so that's going to be nice and steady. And actually I'm thinking I might just throw this up on the wall in the workshop because that would be quite handy. I could put a few shelves in there and just have little bits and pieces, maybe a screw box, screw cupboard or something. But anyway, let's move on. So here's my cupboard and here is my door. Now I've made the door just a tiny little bit smaller than the cupboard. There's no real reason for that, but maybe one of the reasons is you're always going to have a little bit of the end panel sticking beyond the door here. Now if you drill the holes into your doors and they're too far in this way, that would mean that the door will sit further this way, and when it tries to open, what it will do, it will hit your cupboard right here. So we've really got to make sure, and this is a really important point to make here, is that when you're drilling the holes for these hinges, you're not doing them too far in that way. They have to be a certain distance from the edge in order for there to be clearance here when that opens. So that's really important. So we'll look at that next. Drilling the holes in the door. The next thing to do then is to decide which way your cupboard door is going to open. Now I've just checked this door against my cupboard. I think it's pretty square anyway, but what I've done on here is just written top front, so I know exactly how the door's going to sit. It will open this way, so I want to put the hinges here and here. Now if we look at the length of the door, or the height, because this is actually the height of the door, it's about 625, it's about 625 millimeters. Now on a door this size you would definitely only need 2 hinges, but once you start going bigger, and I would say around the 900 1 meter mark, you will definitely need to consider putting one in the middle. On the doors that I fitted recently on a project, the doors were about 750 tall, and I actually put them in at 150 from the top, 150 from the bottom. But for this project, for this door, for this demonstration, I'm going to go 100. So the first thing I'll do is just mark 100 millimeters from that end there, and also from that end there, and then we'll just get the square, speed square, rather large speed square, and we'll just draw a line along there like so, nice and long, and same on this side, and that will basically give us the center line of the middle of this. So it will sit obviously around here and around here. What I'm doing here is using 18mm MDF for this demonstration. Now if you use anything thinner, you need to make sure that the depth of your hinge, this section, is going to allow to go into the door without it coming all the way through, and actually that thickness door is suitable for this type of hinge. I do know that 18mm, 15mm you can get away with. The depth of this, let's just have a look at this. I love this magnetic tape measure. This is about 12 millimeters, so the depth of this section here is about 12 millimeters. So you definitely couldn't use these in a 12 millimeter board, but you could get away with 15, but that's going to be close to going through. Now we need a 35 millimeter Forstner bit, drill bit, Forstner drill bit. Now just to give you an idea, this is a Forstner bit, and it's rather large, isn't it? This is a 75mm one, we're not going to be using that. And there it is, a 35mm diameter cutter. Right, I'm going to make sure I've got a nice sharp pencil, and what we want to do is to measure the end of the hole around 4mm from the edge of the board. So we don't want to be any more than 5mm. So what we need to consider is 35mm for this. We need to half that, which is 17.5, and then we need to add 4mm, because we want 4mm left on here before the start of the hole. So we want about 21.5, and actually I'm going to go 21. It's not going to harm it, and there will be a tiny little bit of movement in this. So I'm going to go about 21 millimeters in from the edge of the board here. So we'll mark that at 21, just over 21, there we go. And same again on here. So I've got my two marks which are just over 21 millimeters in from the edge of the board, and that will then allow, once the center of that goes to the center of that, it gives me that little bit here. Right, what I'm going to do next to make sure I get the cutter in the right place is just to drill this with a, or make a hole with a small drill, and that will allow the center of the cutter to go exactly where I want it. So I can just be more accurate using this to pilot hole the correct position, and then I can use this bit in the cutter to go right in the hole there, look. So that will literally spin right in that position. Now really drill these with a pillar drill if you've got one, and then you know it's going to be nice and square and vertical. But don't worry too much if you haven't. You can just use a hand drill. I've got a pillar drill there, but for the purpose of this video I'm going to do it with this. Right, let's go. If you've got lots of these to do, it would definitely be worth setting up a jig or a stop, but as I'm only doing two, not really much point. There we go, that's perfect, that sits in there lovely now. So let's get this one done. There we go, so there, I'm done. Now I really did purchase the cheapest set of hinges here, because I don't even get any screws with this one. So if you haven't got any screws at home, or you haven't got a stash of screws, then it'd be worth getting a slightly more expensive one. Then you'll get the screws, saves you you know, having to go out and buy more screws, because by the time you bought the screws it's going to be about the same price. So right then, stop mumbling JB and let's crack on. The next thing we're going to do is fix these hinges onto the door. There's a couple of ways we can do this. We can either put a square on this side of the hinge, as long as this part is completely flat. We can either do it this way, or we can put the square here and get this back edge of the hinge in line or against the square, and then we know that's going to be exactly 90 degrees coming out this way as well. So yeah, that looks nice that way. This is usually the way I do it. So I'm going to keep that in position there, grab my pencil and just draw, make two marks. And I found some 4x16, so these are a size 4 screw and they're 16 millimeters long. Bearing in mind this is 18, they're going to be perfect, and they fit in there quite well as well, so that's going to be a really good screw to use. I'm using a rather small drill bit. Now it's really important here that you don't go too big with your drill bit. And I've got here a 3mm drill bit. Right then, so we'll just drill these. Boom! There we go. That's the first bit done. So we've got the door. So there's my top front of the door, and I've got the hinges in on this side, so they're on the right side of the door, so that is potentially going to open from there that way. Now the next thing that we need to do is to mark on our unit where these hinges are going, and particularly where we need to drill the holes for this here. And what you'll notice on this particular hinge, when I bought these, they've actually got this screw here in the furthest position that way, and basically if you undo that screw, what that allows you to do is to move this part of the hinge, or rather when the door is closed it allows you to push the door further in or out. So what we need to consider is when we adjust or make the position of the holes for this hinge, we need to make sure that we've still got a little bit of movement. So what I am going to do is just to move these not to the middle. I'm not going to put them to the middle, but I'm going to put them just a little bit further than all the way down, because I want it to be able to give me a little bit of adjustment. But just in case something doesn't quite go right, I want to be able to push the door closer to the unit. So make sure those are tight. And then what we want to do is now we need to measure the distance between the board here, the door, and the hole, because that's going to be our distance from this edge to where our holes are going. So if we measure that now, and we're looking at about 36 millimeters, something like that. Again, we can adjust it, so don't panic. Don't worry about getting this exactly right. Now this is the side that we're hanging them off, so I want to draw a line which is 36 millimeters from this edge inwards. I'm just going to mark it here, and that's where we're going to put our hinges. So we'll just mark 36 here and 36 down here. I'll just strike a line somewhere there and somewhere there. I know I could be using a proper straight edge, but that bit of MDF straight enough for now, so I'll do the job. So we've got our lines. There we go. We've got our lines with the distance, how far our hinges need to be in. So with that in position, we can get our door, open up the hinges, get it the right way up, JB, and then we can start to see where these are actually going. So now that we've got the distance in, the only thing we need to adjust is how far up or down they're going to go. So at the moment the door's sitting on the bench, and there is quite a big kind of lip here, so I do need to equal that out. So we'll lift that up slightly, and that's where it's going to go. So what I am going to need to do is to just put a packer under there so I'll get it to exactly the right height. If you are fitting this on a wall, then good luck with that. You'll have to get someone to help you and hold it. But if you're doing it like this, like me, on a bench, use a packer. And the packer I'm using today is this coaster I got from my kids. Oh, could do with a coffee actually. Yeah, let's get this done and then we can make ourselves a coffee, shall we? Right then, so I'm going to put that there. That works out perfect. If I put the door on that, that gives me not necessarily a completely equal gap or distance, but something close enough. So we'll just push the door up against the side and then just push the hinge against the unit. That will bring the door forward, but that's okay. And then we'll just bring that back so that line is right down the middle of those holes there. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to mark where those holes are in the bracket, in the hinge. And then I just need to adjust this one. There we go, and we just do exactly the same here. So we know exactly where those holes are going. So there we go, got our holes here and the same down the bottom. Now once again, these are very adjustable, and you'll notice here that where we're putting the screw, there's quite an elongated hole, and that will basically allow us to, even once we've put the screws in, we'll be able to lift the door up and down very slightly. So that's really cool. As I've said already, you don't have to be exactly spot on with these because it does give you adjustment. You've got to be fairly close, but not completely spot on. Now what we'll do, we'll stick a drill in the middle of these holes here because I'm happy with the position, but if I go for the middle, then I've got room to move it up and down. It would be a good idea if you are doing lots of these, if you're making lots of units, then it would be a good idea to make a jig, just a simple block of wood with another block on the end that you can just sit on the end. It's already got the holes in it and you just pilot drill through that block. But because I'm only making one, I just measure it, drill it. But there's a little tip for you. Now I'm going to use these 16 screws again, these 4x16 screws. Right then, let's get this door on. And just to make things a little bit easier, and this is what I love about these hinges, is that we can just actually take these off. So we just push that button in and they come off. So that makes it a whole lot easier to hang the door. Before we had that feature, we used to have to hold it and try and drill it, screw it at the same time. So yeah, loving that. I'm going to leave these a little bit loose. Otherwise, if I do them up really tight and then I try and put the door on, they're not going to be in the right position. So at least if I get them started, get the door connected to the hinges, and then we can adjust it and tighten it. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to having a screw cupboard in my workshop. It's the small things, isn't it? It really is. Right, here we go. I'm just going to put my packer down. Coffee. Give me some coffee. So you can just clip that on there. And come on. There we go, clip that one on there. I'm going to keep that on there for a second. I'm going to just tighten these up because they are in the right position now. The last one, there we go. And, moment of truth, take that packer away. Okay, obviously, it's rubbing. So it's quite out at the moment. I'm just going to take it off of here. So you can notice that it's hanging over here, not hanging over here, and it's quite wonky. So it's definitely kind of doing this. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you can see this gap here, or the difference in this lip, is I'm going to pull this door over this way, and that will stop that dragging on the bottom there. So it's actually this screw here which is going to push the hinge towards the end panel here, and you can actually see that there is already quite a gap between this and that. Compared to this bottom one, you can see there the hinge is quite close to the end, and actually this screw is sticking out quite a bit, where this one is actually in quite far. So all we need to do here is we turn that anti-clockwise, and that then pushes the hinge closer to the end. And if we then try and close the door, okay, still rubbing a little bit, still got a bit more to go. So let's do that a little bit more. Let's get that closer to the end. I might just kick that one out a little bit. There we go, not rubbing. And that's much better. Now we've got that so it's not rubbing on the bottom. But what you can hear there is this edge, and this is what I mentioned earlier, this edge here is actually rubbing against the end panel. So what we need to do, we need to actually pull the door out slightly. So this one here, which I've just done up, I need to loosen and actually push the door this way. Same on the bottom, loosen it and I need to push it that way just slightly, and that will prevent the door from hitting the side. You can just see it there. It gets to that point and then it starts rubbing. Just looking down that gap there as I adjust this one and try and get that roughly the same. Let's try it there. Oh, I can live with that. That actually closes quite nicely now. Yeah, I'm happy with that now. I'm going to tighten these up. There we go. Okay. Right, good enough. I'm happy with that. That is looking good. The only thing I want to do next is put some shelves in here now so I can stack all my screws in and whack it up on the wall. So no doubt in another video you're going to see this up there. Might even paint it. Well, there we go. Hope you found this video interesting. That is how you fit, install and adjust these cabinet hinges. As I've said already, lots and lots to choose from. Some are easier because you've just got a screwdriver and you do that and it goes up and down and backwards and forwards and all sorts. So this is probably your most basic, complete without screws. Oh yeah, so really, really cheap. But they still do the job. They're still good, and they're good enough for my cupboard, which I'm going to have in here with some screws in. So yeah, awesome. I'll leave you some links in the description box down below of some of these different types of hinges, so you can go have a look, check them out and what have you. So yeah, cool man, I'm done here. I'm going to I might get this up on the wall now, so I'm going to get cracking with this, and I'll see you lot on the next video. Alright, see you later.